Who will be with you till the end? The truth of life through the four wives. This is a story about purifying the mind. Buddhists emphasize that diligently practicing cessation, determination, and wisdom, extinguishing greed, anger, and stupidity means that through self-cultivation of cessation, determination, and wisdom, removing greed, anger, and stupidity, purifying one's own mind, and not being blocked by materialistic desires, and not being confused by preconceptions in one's daily life. In daily life, one's mind is purified so that it is not blocked by material desires and obsessed by preconceived notions. The Buddha once told this story. Once upon a time, there was a very wealthy merchant whose riches were renowned far and wide. His house was grand, his carriages plentiful, and his life filled with luxury. Yet, despite all his material wealth, he reserved a special place in his heart for each of his four wives, each one playing a distinct role in his life. He loved them all, but in different ways, and his favoritism was clear in how he treated each of them. The merchant's fourth wife was the one he cherished most. She was young, beautiful, and clever, always managing to captivate him with her charm. Whenever she desired something, the merchant would immediately fulfill her wish. Whether it was jewelry or fine clothing, he would make sure she had the very best. She had a refined taste for food, so the merchant hired the finest chefs to prepare the most exquisite dishes for her, ensuring she was always well fed and satisfied. Her smile was the light of his life, and he found true happiness in her presence. The third wife held a special place in the merchant's heart as well. Though she was a little older than the fourth, she exuded grace and elegance. The merchant loved to take her on trips to scenic mountains and peaceful lakes, far away from the hustle and bustle of city life. In her company, he found solace and peace. She would listen patiently to his concerns and comfort him when he was troubled. She had a calm and steady demeanor, and her presence brought the merchant a sense of emotional security. To show his love, the merchant built her a beautiful house, nestled among lush trees and flowers, a haven where she could live in peace. The second wife was the merchant's confidant, wise and understanding. She was the one he turned to whenever he had worries or personal struggles. She never judged him, but simply offered a listening ear and a warm embrace. Whenever he had something on his mind, he would seek her out for comfort and support. She never asked for luxury, only for stability and contentment, and her quiet understanding made the merchant feel safe and at ease in her company. However, the merchant's relationship with his first wife was quite different. She had been his first love, the one who had supported him through the toughest times and helped him manage the household. In her youth, she had worked tirelessly, caring for the children and taking care of every detail of their home. But as time passed, the merchant began to take her for granted. She had grown older, her beauty faded, and the merchant found himself drifting away from her. He no longer paid her attention, as he once had. She continued to devote herself to the household, but he hardly noticed her anymore. She waited quietly in the background, hoping for a kind word or a gesture of affection, but the merchant hardly ever acknowledged her. As time went by, it was as if she had been forgotten, like a figure from the past, no longer a part of his present. Finally, one day, the wealthy merchant fell seriously ill and was confined to his bed. He realized that his time on earth was running out. As he lay there, he began to wonder, when I die, who among my four wives will be willing to accompany me into the grave? With this thought, he called for his four wives one by one, and asked them, when I die, will you come with me into the tomb? First, he asked his fourth wife, the one he loved the most. She was young, beautiful, and the one he had always showered with gifts and affection. He had thought that she would always be by his side, that she loved him deeply. But when he asked her, will you come with me when I die? She looked at him coldly and responded, don't even think about it. Without another word, she turned and walked away without a second glance, leaving him in shock. It was as though all the love he had given her had vanished into thin air, leaving behind nothing but emptiness. Next, the merchant turned to his third wife, the one who had always been his companion on trips and through difficult times. He had shared many special moments with her, and he had always told her that she was the love of his life. When he asked her, "I have loved you all my life. Are you ready to go with me?" She hesitated before answering no. Her response was blunt and emotionless. "When you die, I will remarry." The merchant's heart sank as her words echoed in his mind, cold and final. It was as though she had no qualms about moving on, as though his death was just another event to her. Feeling desperate, the merchant turned to his second wife, the one he always turned to when he needed comfort. She was kind and understanding, always there to listen to him when he had problems or worries. He had often relied on her for support, and he thought she would be the one to accompany him into the afterlife. He asked, "You are the most understanding. Will you come with me now?" She paused for a moment, then quietly answered, "I cannot help you this time. All I can do is ensure you have a proper burial, but to accompany you in death, I cannot do that." Her voice was calm, but there was a trace of sorrow in her words. The merchant understood that, even though she cared for him, she couldn't offer him the comfort he longed for at the end. The merchant, filled with grief and despair, realized that none of his four wives would stay with him in the end. The love and affection he had once cherished seemed so fleeting now, leaving him to face the inevitable alone. At this moment, the merchant was overwhelmed with sadness and despair. He had once possessed everything: wealth, luxury, and four wives who each played a unique role in his life, bringing him joy and warmth. But now, as the shadow of death loomed over him, all those past comforts seemed hollow and meaningless. The lavishness he had enjoyed, the love he had been given, had all turned into emptiness and loss. The four wives he had once cherished had all chosen to leave him. Some had rejected him with indifference, while others had spoken words of coldness. In this moment, he could no longer feel the glory and happiness of his past life. His heart was consumed by loneliness and sorrow, just as he was sinking deeper into the sea of grief. A soft voice suddenly reached his ears. "I will go with you. Wherever you go, I will be by your side." The merchant froze in place, startled. He turned toward the source of the voice. It was his first wife, the one he had neglected, the one who had been the least cherished. She stood before him, her frail body thin and emaciated, her skin pale and weathered from years of hardship and neglect. She was no longer the vibrant, youthful woman she once was. Time had left its indelible marks on her. She wore no fine clothes, no sparkling jewels. She was simply clad in the humble simplicity of someone who had sacrificed much for the sake of others. She had no wealth to offer, no beauty to flaunt, but she had a quiet strength and resilience that had endured through all these years. The merchant gazed at her, his heart swelling with guilt and sorrow. He had never treated her well. He had often overlooked her, assuming she was no longer worthy of his attention. Instead, he had lavished his affection on younger wives, enjoying the glitter and glamour of life, while failing to notice that the one person who truly loved him was standing right in front of him. Tears filled his eyes, and he choked on his words as he said, "I should have treated you better." The words were thick with regret, as if he were finally admitting all the mistakes he had made. At that moment, the merchant realized that the person who had truly loved him, the one who had been by his side through thick and thin, was the wife he had once taken for granted. She had no dazzling appearance or youth on her side, but she had remained faithful and devoted, always there for him, while the others had left him in his time of need. He finally understood that true love was not about outward beauty or fleeting affection, but about unwavering support and quiet companionship. As he looked into her eyes, worn by time, but still warm with care, he felt both gratitude and remorse. He understood now that the only one who would never leave him, even in death, was his first wife, the one he had once neglected. In fact, the four wives of the merchant each represent a different symbolic meaning, reflecting profound truths about life and death. The merchant had always thought that his four wives were essential to his existence, that they were symbols of his success and happiness. But it wasn't until the end of his life that he began to understand that each of these wives symbolized something much deeper and more meaningful. The fourth wife, the youngest and most beloved, represented the body. Throughout life, people are most attached to their bodies. Everything we do, Every desire we fulfill is rooted in our physical needs, whether it's food, clothing, rest, or entertainment. The body serves as the vessel for our desires. To satisfy material wants, many people sacrifice their health or well-being. However, when death comes, all the beauty and health of the body will fade, and the body cannot follow us into the grave. The body is a temporary vessel for the soul, and when we die, it stays behind. The merchant had once lavished attention on his fourth wife, thinking that she, like his body, would always be by his side. But in the end, he realized that the body cannot accompany us beyond death. The third wife represented wealth. Wealth is something that many people spend their lives chasing after. The merchant had accumulated great wealth through his intelligence and hard work, believing it to be the cornerstone of his happiness. However, no matter how much wealth one has, it cannot accompany you when you die. Whether earned through hard work or gained by other means, wealth is ultimately left behind when we pass away. It cannot follow us into the afterlife. The merchant had placed wealth above all else, thinking it would be his greatest source of comfort. But in the end, he realized that wealth is just an external possession and cannot provide lasting solace. The second wife represented friends and family. In life, we often form close bonds with family and friends, and it's natural to care for one another. However, many people, consumed by the pressures of life, often neglect these relationships. They become so focused on personal gain and material pleasures that they forget the true essence of relationships, caring for others. As time passes, these relationships can fade, and when facing death, one often finds that the friends and family who once seemed so close are no longer there, or perhaps have forgotten you. In the end, friends and family, though important, cannot accompany us into the eternity of death. The fleeting nature of life, and the changes that come with it, make these connections less reliable as a source of lasting comfort. The first wife, however, represented the soul. The soul is the part of us that remains with us throughout life, inseparable from us, even in death. No matter how our outward appearance changes, the soul stays with us, enduring everything we go through. Yet, it is often the most neglected part of ourselves. We focus on satisfying our external desires and material needs, ignoring the deeper needs of our spirit. It wasn't until the merchant was on his deathbed that he realized the only constant companion in life and death is the soul. The soul represents our true essence, always loyal, even when we ignore it in our pursuit of other things. In the end, the merchant realized that while he had 4 wives, each had given him different kinds of love and companionship. However, each of them had left him in the end, taking away a part of his life with them. Only his soul remained, the one companion who would never abandon him.
Thank you for watching our share today. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content about Buddhism and Taoism, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join us on our journey of cultivation. We also welcome you to share your thoughts and feelings in the comments section. We look forward to hearing from you. Be sure to turn on the notification bell so you can be the first to receive our latest updates. May you feel the light of wisdom in your daily life. See you next time.